That's JT Westerstill of Locked On Utes. This is one of the quotes of all time. The Pac-12 commissioner, per John Wilner, said that she believes the Big 12, the ACC, and the Pac-12 align. She believes that and a lot of this came from college football playoff talks, how the Pac-12 should be considered in the same vein as the Big 12 and the ACC. Stunning to me that a league that barely exists, if it even does exist, Teresa Gould would say, is right along with Utah, BYU, Oklahoma State, or Clemson, Florida State, and Miami. What level of idiocy do you have to subscribe to think that this could be real?
It's like you said, it's not. I'll say, just defending her, if you're the commissioner of the conference, you're just trying to fight for your teams. I get it, but
only so far. Did we not just learn with George Kliavkov that if you say too many things that are too stupid, your public perception can damn you?
That's fair. And also, you just got to be smarter at the negotiating table as well, too. It's hopefully the difference for the Pac-12 so far, which also they do need one more school still to. They want to talk about being on equal play. Yeah. You need one more. You're not even there yet. You have to get to 8 because you added a Gonzaga, who I think is a good add, but they don't have football. That's a problem. So you have Boise State, which, yes, Boise State is capable of having years where they're really good and belong in the 12-team field, but that's an aberration. If you look at the years when a G5 team breaks through the ranks in football and has a year like that, recent ones, Boise, actually Cincinnati was one a couple years ago before they were a Big 12, but also now think where Cincinnati is too, right? And I'm not saying that as a negative on just what's happened with Cincinnati. It's more so just the reality of hey, you have these years and a lot of times you fall back. Boise State's had great seasons, but they are not a P4 program for a reason. And so, yes, the Pac-12 is Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Gonzaga, Oregon State, San Diego State, Utah State, Washington State. I'm sorry, especially for Washington State and Oregon State. No, it's not the Pac-12 of old. It's not the Big 12 of new. It's not the ACC. The brands, what they've achieved, even you think of the ACC now, right? You have a Clemson who's gotten into the playoff, made a statement. TCU got into the playoff, made a statement. You have teams that have won conference championships at the P4 level, the Utahs, the Oklahoma States, Arizona State, what they did last year, right? So it's a totally different level still. I'm curious with rev sharing for those for the Pac-12 schools. I'm curious, can they get that 20 million threshold? I don't, and it says a year in and year out. It's one thing to do it 1 year, but can you do it year in and year out? So yeah, they don't deserve, I'm sorry guys, they do not deserve that's one of the 4 spots in there. If they can have a great season, make it in, Boise State should always be able to get in with the season they had last year. They earned that opportunity, but to act like it's on par with the Big 12, just with the gap, there's P4, G5, it's as simple as that. The gap still exists. So no, they do not deserve a spot.
Again, I'll pose this. You mentioned covering for her a little bit or understanding you're a PR agent. As a commissioner, that it's your job to beef up your conference. But to me, it ends at a certain degree. And the more publicly silly, that's the word I'm going to use, the more publicly silly that you look, the worse your negotiation power gets, the less leverage you have, the more you sound like you're blowing hot air up everybody's skirt. When I hear the Pac-12 commissioner say something of this nature, it only makes me look at that conference as weaker. It only makes me look at them and think, wow, they are overcompensating for a league that barely exists right now. And I don't think this is a sign of health for a Pac-12 that honestly many college football fans, myself, would like to see ultimately survive.
I would like to see it survive too. Now, really quick, just on your comment, as you were talking, it's different circumstances, but I couldn't help think of Greg Sankey. Just all the ridiculous things that he comes out and says every week. Now he has Georgia, he has a Texas, he has these brands. He can say the dumbest crap and take pamphlets at everyone and try to prop up his conference in ridiculous fashions. We'll talk about that more on the Squat Shop, sir. But anyways, getting back to the Pac-12, and yeah, you're right. That's where I do get what you're saying. In some ways, it loses credibility, just in terms of it's one of those comments. For me personally, I just roll my eyes at it because, like I said, I know they're just trying to defend and prop up their conference like that. But I agree. I don't think it should have been said. I think it's just because it's not true. I mean, we just look at this right away and you say, hey, Utah State has had some success recently, but they're not a Big 12 team. We're not a P4 team. What are we talking about here? The only one, as I mentioned, if we look at these right now,
yeah.
Because even Washington State and Oregon State, I know Washington State was ranked last year, but then look what happened to their roster. All the best guys taken off it and went somewhere else too. Oregon State fell off the map pretty fast, right? So Oregon State, Washington State, and you could argue a Boise State as someone where it's hey, some years that they can have this level of success, but the rest of them, I'm sorry. And even the ones I mentioned, a Fresno State, or just, you're not going to be able to produce that success consistently. You're not among the best there. And yeah, it's going to be a long road for the Pac-12. I do think what makes this very interesting, Drake, is we mentioned they need one more spot, right? So if you add a Sac State, you've been very high on Sac State, talking about them potentially even being in the Big 12. I want to see them prove it first yet, but I guess that would be their path to success, is you have a school like Sac State that is able to annually meet that 20 million threshold, and then they can get you a roster capable of competing with the best. But that's a large jump. We're just talking about to jump from G5 to P4. Sac State's making the jump from FCS, trying to get up to not even G5 yet, but then it would be P4. So it's a long climb, and it's going to take this conference a long time until they can get back up there. And we'll talk about more in the last segment. We'll see if they even have the legs to get to that point.
Yep. Let's tie this one up with a bow that is more interesting, that could actually be a contentious point for folks who are listening. The old Pac-12 of 2023 versus the current Big 12. Who's better? And better is a loose word there. I'm just going to kind of let you make up in your own mind what better means here.
Yeah, the Pac-12 was tougher before than the Big 12 is currently now. I don't think that's a hot take. I'm sure people take that as that. I already made some BYU fans with my comments earlier probably, so I guess I just got to make the whole conference mad now with this. But I really don't think it's a hot take, because I look at it like this: Oregon, USC, Washington, UCLA. And I am a guy who fights for any given Saturday. So I'm not just laying down at the feet of those brands and being like, oh my gosh, they're the greatest thing ever. But it is just a fact when you look at it. Hey, how many times have we had a 12-team playoff would Oregon have gotten in? They would have gotten in a ton. USC, just even a couple years ago, when Utah beat them for that second Pac-12 championship game, USC wins that game. I know it feels like forever ago, but like Lincoln Riley's first year, they win that game, they're in. Their only loss was to Utah. If they avenge that loss and they're a conference champion, they're in right there too. Washington, of course, made the national championship too. And then, yeah, you don't talk about UCLA because they're not on par like that. But when you add those old brands in, like when you add, especially the Oregon, the Washington as of late, right? Those have been some of the strongest brands we've seen recently in college football. Like that, to me, puts it ahead of what the Big 12 is now, that is lacking those brands. It doesn't mean that, hey, if it's not like, I don't think if Oregon was in the Big 12, although I should say right now, like maybe under the new circumstances, if we get the house clearing and everything, and then we could even the playing field, maybe be more even in the NIL era. It's hard to compete with them. But when you have those big brands in, now this is a different conversation if you add in Oklahoma and Texas, because what did Oklahoma do? This is just keeping it real. Oklahoma dominating the Big 12. They made a ton of playoff appearances. You could right then probably argue, and I probably would slightly lean towards the Big 12 being the best when they had Texas and Oklahoma. But when the conversation is Pac-12 back then with their strong brands versus Big 12 as it is now, I would have to lean with the Pac-12.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's the host of Locked On Big 12 going to say?
I'm going to leave it in the hands of the viewers. I'm going to leave it in the hands of the comment section and see where they take your funny words, Magic Man. Yeah, I don't. It is a funky thing that it can't be simulated. I can only imagine though that someone out there is pulling up a record saying, "Oh, the Big 12 was 5-1 against the Pac-12 in 2020," and making the case for me. So coming up, it doesn't even matter because the Pac-12 won't exist by 2030. This is a Locked On Big 12 Locked On Utes crossover.